Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, which one is going to happen first? The Uncharted movie gets made, or we consistently get women nominated for Best Director? I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me this episode, Dylan Blight.
Neither.
Also joining us, Nicholas Pryor.
I'm also Ashley Hobley, your host.
Still not. And special guest, the Ayatollah of pop culture, Buddy Watson.
Thanks for having me. Can't wait to sit down and talk about totally non-controversial Oscar opinions that won't upset anybody on the internet.
It's good to have you here, buddy. Only guest on What Do You Want to Watch? So, 2 times. All right, let's move on.
Is that a thing? That is right, actually.
That is correct.
Right, isn't it? Wow, yeah, okay.
What's that?
You're the only guest that's ever on the show. It's as he said.
True,
I
have. This is my second run.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unofficial member, basically, at that stage, if you're the only fucking guest.
We're going to try and change that in 2020, but whatever. In this episode, we'll be talking about what's in our watch history. We're going to be doing a big preview of the 92nd Academy Awards, including predictions, and then we'll be talking about the movie that we ended up watching, Scream. But first, let's just jump into it. Dylan, you and Buddy both watched Bombshell, the new movie about Fox News and the Roger Ayers, whatever his name is. Doesn't really matter. His situation.
It does. It's a true story. I think there's like important key details. Yeah. Let's. Buddy can go first. I can't because I don't know if he liked it or disliked it as much as I did.
I like how you said his situation, because that's really a nice way of putting it. I had really low expectations going into it, so it kind of exceeded those, which I guess wasn't hard to do when it's so low. But I was pleasantly surprised by it, but I still don't think it was amazing, but I enjoyed it, if that makes sense. So. Kinda.
I think I can't remember what my review was. I think I gave it a 6, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Is that
That's
right?
about
Does
right.
that sound right, Ash? I think right. Yeah, ExplosionNetwork.com, my review, of course. I think it's. I think the way I described it is it pulls at punches, and that's what kind of annoyed me about the movie, in that it's got all these characters and this really fucked up thing that happened very recently, like in the scheme of things. And they're great performances. Like, everyone's great. Charlize Theron basically disappears into playing Megyn Kelly amongst her accent plus like a nose prosthetic and the accent that she has down and everything. Nicole Kidman is the same. She kind of disappears. John Lithgow, of course, like disappears into Roger Ailes. Roger Ailes.
Doesn't matter.
He's got, obviously has a fat suit on and whatever else, but he just plays, the despicable person that he is quite well. And there's a couple other characters that, what's his fucker? Malcolm
McDowell.
Yeah, plays, head honcho. Rupert Murdoch, thank you. I'm mental blanking on the place. Margot Robbie's the only person who's like a new character, and even she's, quite good. But it's like, when it comes to just tackling the source, the true story of it all, I'm like, I should be feeling more uncomfortable, I felt, in the cinema. Like, I'm like, given the story and the context, that the movie was just very much like a pop anthem version of the story. I felt that the one time it got close to making me feel uncomfortable, I was like,
yeah,
oh fuck, are we gonna? And then it's like, okay, and then we kind of, the scene ended, and it's a scene involving Margot Robbie, and that's the closest they got to make me feel really uncomfortable. But I'm like, given the context of the movie and what happens, I should be feeling really uncomfortable a lot to like give this story the credence it deserves, in my opinion.
It's funny you say that, because The Loudest Voice, for those who don't know, kind of covers sort of the same kind of topic. It's a TV show about that Robert Ailes, and just the way they make you feel around him, especially around women, is just really super unsettling and creepy and predatory. It'd be interesting to see the differences and which film or TV show tackled the subject matter better, in a way, did it more justice.
Yeah, well, I think I want to go watch that, because it's only like 6 episodes, isn't it?
I think, 6 or 7, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's not long, so I think I want to watch that more after seeing this. But I would say that I was somewhat disappointed with this because I really loved that original teaser trailer with them all in the elevator. I'm like, oh, this is going to be like a hardcore hitting, like really intense thing, and then it was just more pop dramery than I wanted it to be, I think.
Does it stink of a way of them just making the film to cash in on, I guess, the kind of Me Too movement, as opposed to actually having something to say about it?
I don't think so, but I can see how people could go in and come out saying that. But I think it doesn't, like you were saying, Dylan, it doesn't really do any. It doesn't really cash in cheaply, or it doesn't really say anything as of note as much as what it could have. So it's kind of really,
it's just too much in the middle. It's just floundering.
Nor here or there. Yeah, that's right. And it's funny because they use the Billie Eilish bad guy in the trailer for that scene you're talking about when Margot Robbie goes into the office and insinuating that bad things are going to happen. And it's just, I thought there was, I was with you. I was kind of think there was going to be a lot more of that, or at least a lot more innuendo.
They do a lot of like, it's, what's being said and what's happening. But they really, not only do they not show it, which is fine, I don't need to see a lot of what he was doing, but they don't even really talk about it. And I suppose the filmmakers would argue that it's like, yeah, but like the whole idea is that like the characters weren't talking about it either. But I'm like, yeah, but I just, for the purpose of this movie, I don't think it worked. Like to not have it being a more open conversation, and everyone's just like trying to be all secretive, and it's like read between the lines. Everyone knows what's going on, but we're not going to talk about it, and that's like the setup for the movie and the way it all plays out. Yeah.
Cool.
I have nothing interesting to say about it anymore.
You guys also watch Bad Boys for Life. The sequel to Bad Boys 2, which doesn't make sense. Was there a third one? Or is this the third one?
No, this is the third one, yeah.
This is the third one.
Then why didn't they put 3 in the... No, never mind.
That's a discussion for another time.
Is it any good?
Is it any good?
Is it any good? It is what you get. You know what you're going to get going into this film. I think it's pretty much the same kind of stuff you've had from the previous movies. Same chemistry with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Same kind of batshit crazy stuff, explosions and weird scenarios that they get themselves into. Specifically with the second half of the movie, where I kind of really lost me. But yeah, what do you make of it, Dylan?
I think it's easily the best Bad Boys movie.
Ooh.
Because it loses a lot of the Michael Bay-ish eye for jokes, action, and the camera gliding along every girl's ass along the street on the way and whatever else. And it still keeps the chemistry of the characters, the ridiculous action, but it definitely isn't as over the top explosion as the Michael Bay, but it's still up there. But it just like it keeps all the good elements that I liked and loses a lot of the stuff I didn't like. And by the time I finished watching the movie, I was like, I really didn't expect to like this as much as I did, but I really did. And I think another good choice they made is they're not like, oh, we'll make a third Bad Boys, we'll reboot it after 18 years or however the fuck long it's been, and we'll just like do some random cop story. They're like, no, we'll make the story like super focused on the characters themselves and like about them, and you can't get into it without spoilers, but it's not just like, oh, random bad guy thing, they take down the bad guys, they win like the other movies. It is like a more personal, connected story, which I also think, like, and obviously I'm not saying it's like super deep, it's fucking Bad Boys, but it still makes it more interesting than if it wasn't as connected to the characters.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's infinitely better than number 2. I still like number 1. Number 2 really frustrated me with kind of, I guess, what you were saying, the over-the-top explosions and stuff, and I just felt like it went on forever. I remember seeing that in the cinema. I haven't seen it since, but I just remember having a distaste, kind of distaste for watching it. But yeah, I was in on this movie for, I guess, the most part, and then it kind of, towards the end, it kind of really lost me when it kind of, didn't get into Fast and Furious levels of ridiculousness with where it went, but still, I started rolling my eyes. I'm like, all right, here we go.
Well, it sets up a sequel.
Just
so.
keep eating popcorn, buddy. Just keep eating popcorn. Don't worry about it.
Bad Boys for Life 2.
It sets up the inevitable. It's funny because they kind of screwed themselves because obviously Bad Boys for Life would have been the perfect title for the fourth movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they made the mistake there. And they're going to do it because this movie.
Because they're going to make the prequel to this
a lot of
film.
money.
Bad
Yeah,
Boys 3.
no, they're not. I don't need more Will Smith de-aging bullshit in my cinemas.
Oh, so it's all fine for Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, but Will Smith.
Yeah, because they did it well.
No,
I've
they
seen those
fucking didn't.
I've seen those Gemini Man trailers.
Gemini Man
Is
sucked.
Gemini Man nominated for an Oscar?
No.
Shut the fuck up.
All right. You also went and saw the movie Go, the Australian film shot in Western Australia about go-karting. Should people go check out Go?
People should go check out Go. Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching this movie. More fun than I thought I would have. Obviously, it kind of wears its inspirations on its sleeve. It's very much like we'll do like a sort of Karate Kid thing, but with go-karts to an extent. Like it's literally your typical story of like kid gets into something, be that any sort of sport, and in this case it's go-karting. There's the older guy who's like grumpy and like used to be a champion who's, you know, doesn't want to race anymore because of some dark secret. And then, of course, he somehow gets him to agree to help train him. You know, you've seen this story many, many times before, but it works because the actors are really good. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the three, main leads, all of which are new actors for this movie. And then you've got some key people backing them up, particularly Richard Roxburgh as the grumpy man himself, who's a, you know, prominent Australian actor, and he in this role is hilarious. Like I laughed out loud several times with just his grumpy one-liners to the kid characters and stuff like that. And it's like without him, the movie would have just kind of fallen over. But it's like him making that work makes the rest of it come together. And also it doesn't try and make like they're bad guy kids in it, but it doesn't go too hard into like, oh, they're real bad bullies and they'll fucking like beat the shit out of you if you like they get in trouble. It rides that line where you could take like real young kids to this and like even older kids and me, like everyone kind of enjoy it. Like they don't like orient it towards a certain age group, I felt. Also, I got to shout out I had to look it up real quick. Dan Wiley, another prominent like Australian actor who, if you look him up, you'll be like, I've seen this dude in a million things, usually in bit roles. He is in this movie and he's also a laugh out loud factor for me. And one scene in particular where he sings the horses song, I had me sinking into my seat. You know, when something's like really cringe inducing and you're just like, oh no, like no, why don't you know, you just want to kind of close your eyes, but it's still funny at the same time. Yeah. So I had a good old fun time watching this one. So, and all the go-kart stuff is shot really well. Like the director, this is his first feature, but he used to shoot Top Gear. So like all of the racing stuff is, you could tell it's got the eye of someone who's been shooting cars for quite a long time, and they're not like highly edited, like super fast or over stylistic to make it seem silly. Like it works really well, and he's got an eye for keeping it like on the attention of the person in the cockpit and what they're actually going through when they're racing, not just making the go-kart like slide around corners and do like sick drifts and stuff, as much as I appreciate that in Fast and Furious, of course. But no, I enjoyed it. I got a review up, explosionetwork.com, of course. I think I gave it like a 7.5 or something. I think quite enjoyed it.
Yes, 7.5. So explosionnetwork.com. I checked out A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, thanks to Sony Pictures for sending me to an event screening. That's it's a movie including Fred Rogers, the American child presenter who's much beloved. Came back into the public consciousness with the release of the documentary When Should Be My Neighbor, which I watched like hours before I went and saw the movie. I had a really good time. It's kind of a little bit of a bait and switch. I think a lot of the marketing gives the impression that it's like a biopic about Fred Rogers, when really it's this story about a journalist who interviews him for a piece and sort of how he impacts the journalist's life going forward. It's sort of based on an actual true story about a journalist who was on the outs. Apparently, he wrote an article outing Kevin Spacey back in the 90s or something. Like,
wow, ahead of his time.
and
Is he
like,
alive
got a
still?
lot of bad. Yeah, he's still alive and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
Like got a they got a bunch of bad press, and then just did this interview with Fred Rogers, and like it sort of changed his life and perspective and everything. Matthew Rhys plays the journalist, does a fantastic performance. Sort of this person who's so invested in their job, but also just become a new father, and is dealing with that while his actual father, who he is estranged from, comes back into his life, and he's sort of this Fred Rogers is such a nice guy. He's just so cynical. He's like, can this guy really be as good as he appears to be? Really fascinating story. I think I gave it an 8.5 over on the website. So definitely worth checking this out. Buddy, did you get around to watching this one?
No, I didn't. I really wanted to though.
Shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. The way, and it's funny the way that kind of scoped that trailer, because I don't really know too much about the character at all, and how, well he is with kids, but then obviously being interviewed by the journalist and kind of transcending that kind of stereotype that he was just good with kids, and then he's just all-round good person that can help anybody. So
from what I can tell you,
yeah, looks really good.
Yeah, I was super torn on whether to watch the documentary before going seeing it. Obviously, as Australians, we have like no sort of background for him. He pretty much did a show akin to Play School, I guess, is the most kind of relatable touchstone for us Australians. But yeah, I would definitely watch the documentary first, because there's a lot of stuff from the show that is sort of you won't get or won't have as much connection or relevance if you don't have some sort of connection. But it will work fine without
Where is
it.
the doco?
I had to buy it on like. On
The doco is like
streaming
a similar
services.
name, doesn't it?
It's
like
Won't You
similar-
Be My Neighbor?
Okay, there you go.
So yes, so check that out. So on Australia Day, a movie called The True History of the Kelly Gang dropped on Stan. I know Nick watched it. I know Dylan watched it. I have the feeling you're going to have an opposing opinion. So, Nick, do you want to share your thoughts on True History of the Kelly Gang?
It was long. I felt every single minute. I felt every single minute of it. It just dragged
2
for
hours?
me. Yeah, I know, but it felt like fucking 18. I mean, I liked aspects of it. It was shot well. It was acted well, but I don't know. It was just too disjointed for me. It's just too...
What way?
Like, it just felt like there was no through line. It was just... I don't
It's all
know.
about Ned Kelly. That's the fruit.
I know it wasn't based on a true story as well, but the story that they told wasn't particularly hard-hitting for me, I guess. It was too surreal, too out there for me. But yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. Definitely not.
So on the opposite polar spectrum, I would say I love this movie because I gave it a 8.5 in my review, and I was close to giving it a 9. The more I thought about it, the more I actually liked it, and I think in a lot of ways it'll just go underappreciated. I mean, here's the thing: if you don't like Ned Kelly movies in general, I would say check this one out, because it's definitely not like the Ned Kelly movies you're used to. It's the complete opposite of Heath Ledger Ned Kelly. It's like if you watch the 2003 one or whatever, and you're like, I don't really care for this. It's like this is the complete opposite of that, and they do a lot of things in the movie to like set it apart, so you know this isn't supposed to be like a super sticking to the book of what we know about Ned Kelly. They literally never have him grow the beard that he's most famous for and everything, so it's always just like, and I think that's a stylistic choice, obviously, among many other things in the movie. It's hard to discuss about like super spoilers, but I also think the movie in general, to me, and the way I wrote about it in my review, is that like it's super kind of, I hate to use the word attack because it makes it sound like the directors were out to like hurt people with it, but I do feel like it's trying to have like it's
Challenge.
It's like trying to challenge is probably a better word. It's like challenging the super like masculine identity of Ned Kelly, and I think that works a lot, especially because most people in Australia who I see wearing Ned Kelly stuff or tattoos of Ned Kelly are usually bogans or motorbike people, or whatever. You're more like macho dudes, right? And without going super spoilery into it, what they do with this movie is they take a true thing A slight true detail, which is there was like rumors of one dude in particular in the Kelly gang who that they would say would be running around in dresses, and they've taken that and strung that out to saying that all of the Kelly gang wore dresses in a means to scare their opponents, because it's like, what happens if you see a dude come out of the bush in a dress? It's like, it's going to scare everyone, you know. So they do have basis in like some truth there, and they've just kind of expounded, obviously, but using that, he ties it back to a real element to do with his father. And that's an interesting thing that I looked up after that is actually quite true and makes quite interesting. They tied that all into like his relationship with his mother in quite interesting ways to do with like maternal motherhood, especially when his father was seen as like the non-powerful figurehead in his family. I don't know, like it's really hard to discuss without spoilers, but I would say I think the reason I like it so much is because I do think there is a lot of depth to this movie and the way it challenges particular roles in these sorts of movies, and especially the way that Australia treats and looks at Ned Kelly as this super masculine, macho hero Robin Hood character that's part of our fairy tales. And this movie, I don't think this movie's trying to even shit on Ned Kelly. I think this movie's like literally just going, this movie isn't really about Ned Kelly. It's about the myth of Ned Kelly, in my views.
Sorry, we should probably say that it's based off a novel at the same time.
It is, yeah. But yeah, I treat this movie as this movie's like stripping away the truth, taking the myth of what we all treat Ned Kelly as, and then like making a movie exploring that, and like and a lot of the movie, the first half is about him growing up as a boy and his relationship with different characters, particularly his mother, his father, of course, the character Russell Crowe plays in a really, I mean, everyone's got fantastic performance in this, but Russell Crowe is quite good at his cameo role. I think this is like one of my favorite Nicholas Hoult performances ever, and I mean, I love him in general. He's like an unofficial Australian at this point. Like, I love him in Mad Max, obviously, and I think that's like one of his best roles, and now he's in another Australian movie, and I'd say this is one of his best roles as well. George McKay is fantastic in this movie, and then coming off 1917, where he plays the complete opposite character, like a very subdued role, and this one he's like obviously a lot louder and kind of maniacal at times. I'm like, this is going to be his 12 months, I feel, between people appreciating him in this and then 1917, obviously. Beautifully shot. It's like the end shootout sequence is the best version of that shootout I've seen, like Ned Kelly's final stand, just because it's so visceral and surrealistic. It's like watching it through a fucking drug trip, and it works for the way they tell it. I don't know. I really love the movie. I can understand why some people obviously won't like it. Understand if you're like, oh, it's too disjointed, because it is like this weird sort of drug psychedelic trip at times. But I also fully expect a lot of people to hate the movie because of its view of Ned Kelly, obviously. So
now that thinking about it, it actually reminds me a lot of a Von Trier film. Like, it's kind of structured the same. There's like, before each act, there's like the title card.
There's three acts in the movie.
Yeah. But there's like a title card, and then there's like all the surrealist imagery and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel it, like the very ending scene as well, is kind of a way, I don't know if they're explicitly stating it, but like saying this is kind of like a version of what happened, but then the legend of what happened is that retelling of the journalist at the end as well.
Yeah, very, very much. I think you can. A lot of the movie lays on how you take that end scene.
Yeah,
and if it works for you, I guess.
Now that I remember, one aspect that I really didn't like was the, I guess, modern kind of rock music throughout as well.
I loved it.
That took me out of the experience.
But it works because also, if you look at the dresses that they're wearing, a lot
when,
of the clothes they're wearing.
When it first cut to the adult, I thought like, oh, is this jumping into present day kind of like Romeo and Juliet kind of thing? It was just
They do a lot of things. They're like fuck it. Like, these clothes aren't like period piece set. The music isn't period piece set. When you get to the credit sequence and it's literally just playing this punk rock song with like fucking graffiti on this like wall and like scribbling, like the movie has a punk rock type of attitude. Like, it very much has the attitude that people think Ned Kelly had in real life, I feel. And that's why I kind of compared it to Sid Vicious in my review. I'm like, this is like the Sex Pistols version of Ned Kelly that people think he was and want him to be, but it's the first time I've actually seen it like brought to life, especially with the way that George McKay plays the character, like the no beard, the haircut. Like I said, he's like a androgynous version of the character because they play with his sexuality in this movie as well. And I think like having him be a more like non-bearded,
there's definitely undertones through it.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. I'd love to see people write more about it and break down more stuff about it.
I definitely can see what they were getting at, but like I said, personally, for me, it didn't really work.
Cool. Speaking.
So, what is your score then, Nick?
I think I gave it a 5.
5, 8.5.
It's out of 10 on Trakt. So yeah.
Speaking of Lars von Trier, I saw this morning that you decided to watch Antichrist. Nick, what do you think of Antichrist?
Why the fuck would you do that?
In the morning.
Yeah.
I'd been up since 2:00, so I don't know. I've been meaning to watch it for a while. Funny that I actually watched it kind of back to back with the Kelly Gang movie because there was a lot of, I guess, similarities in a way. I guess the von Trierism kind of, but it was also, I guess, saying, I guess, similar sort of message where the Kelly Gang was, I guess, a critique on masculinity, where this is a critique on misogyny and like controlling men controlling women and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I quite enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's fantastic, but I think it achieved what it set out to do. For those who don't know, it's about their unnamed characters, a man and a woman, played by Willem Dafoe and I forget
Charlotte
the woman's name.
Gainsborough.
That's
Charlotte
the one.
Gainsborough.
Yeah, she's in a lot of his movies. It's about their son dying, and then he's a therapist, so he takes her grief and treatment into her own hands, and becomes domineering and controlling of her. And it's just classic von Trierism. It just goes into fucked up imagery.
I mean, I don't know if it's a spoiler to say because it's like the movie's like more than 10 years old now. The movie starts with their baby dying as they're fucking, and they watch it literally climb out of a window. So
no. So
or whatever it is, it like falls off something.
The opening scene, they have no idea, but then later on in the film, it kind of like puts the idea in your head that she saw it all, but whether that's true or not, like it's obviously very open to interpretation. But it's I guess it comes up on a lot of lists like of the most fucked up movies ever and that kind of stuff. Like there were some, I guess, shocking scenes, but I wouldn't say it's some of the worst stuff I've ever seen either. I guess it's they said a lot of the stuff about the House of Jack built, but I guess if you're not used to, I guess, being confronted by that kind of imagery, I can see it being shocking, but for me, I didn't think it was super impactful.
I would easily put this movie in my like top 10 movies that made me squirm the most. I would never watch this
I
again.
guess once you've seen a Serbian film, not much really affects you.
Well, the one scene in this that is the most fucked up scene made me want to turn it off. But I mean, it's not over the top. Like it fits, but still, I'm just like.
No. The thing that actually shook me the most was seeing like full penetrative sex in the movie. like
whoa,
you don't really expect to see that in a film as well.
So the baby thing is fine, but you draw the line at penetrative sex.
Well, the baby thing was. Like,
I've seen babies fall out of windows in movies before.
No, but it wasn't done as a shock value. It was, I guess, artfully done, I guess you could say. Like, it wasn't, like, shocking or anything like that. I mean,
gonna go watch Nymphomaniac after this?
No, I attempted to watch that many years ago and I couldn't. But I might go watch Dogville.
All right. Dylan, you watched Hustlers finally. Is it as good as I've said it was?
It's good. I think the movie's not as good as Lopez's performance. I think. No, I'm not saying like she carries the movie. Like the movie's fine, but I definitely feel like the script doesn't have quite as much pop in its step. I don't know. As it kind of feels like it does. I guess I don't know. But yeah, obviously Constance Wu is quite good. Jennifer Lopez is good. The main role of cast is good. The story just like only has so much to go. I guess like You know, they didn't do like an epic year-long crime spree. They really only did like a couple months. You know, so it's like you can only stretch that so far. But I enjoyed it, and I would say that I am joining the group of people disappointed that she didn't get nominated for Best Actress. I guess I'd swap someone out for her because she's very good in this. Yeah.
I saw that both you and Nick, Dylan, watched Atomic Blonde this week. What did you think of Atomic Blonde? Is it the female James Bond?
No.
It was shit. I didn't like it.
Yeah, me neither.
There's my Nick answer.
The best thing about it was the soundtrack. Like, it was directed, I think, by the same guy that did John Wick.
The first John Wick.
Yeah. And I can see them attempting that kind of action, but none of it worked as well. The CGI throughout the movie was no good. Like, I thought the movie was going to be for me because I love the setting of the Cold War, especially divided Berlin, but it doesn't really do anything interesting with it.
Not really.
The characters were all boring. It's just, yeah, it was no good.
It's like it's weird though because I feel like it's trying to be both like a John Wicky type thing, but also then like a Bourne movie.
Yeah,
with like the
there's like
crossy cross, double crossy, triple
yeah.
cross, four cross, and then at the end it like reveals all these things, and you're like, okay, I don't really care because I don't care for these fucking characters at all. The one scene I do like in the whole movie though that I watch again on YouTube is the fake one shot. But I mean they edit it so it looks like it's a one shot. They go up the staircase, she fights a bunch of people, she gets beat to a pulp, then she goes down, she gets in the car. I love the makeup effect because there's a shot where she like looks over towards the camera and her eyes like all fucking bloodshot and stuff. I'm like, you can tell she's like been through it. And then like, the camera like follows them through this whole sequence until they crash at some point. And obviously it's cut there several times and I can pick where it cut at certain points, but it's still, that's the only part of the movie I really enjoyed. Yeah.
I pretty much agree with both of what you said as well, especially what you were saying, Nick, about the soundtrack. And that was at the time when kind of Guardians of the Galaxy and all these kind of 80s soundtracks were kind of being repopularized and bumping up movies. And I felt that they were just like, let's make a movie to get an 80s soundtrack in there and then we'll think about that after. And I was like wondering about the Charlize Theron, like the nudity or whatever. I was kind of a bit shocked at that.
Have you seen her? She's done nude like heaps though.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, okay. I wonder how much they paid her to do this. You know, it's a bit weird for this I guess this kind of movie. It kind of took me off guard a little bit. And then I was like, oh, well, she's the executive producer. She wants this to go well. So yeah, I was really disappointed. Disappointed by it when I saw it as well.
Yeah, I remember.
Basically, all Charlie's movies are produced by herself, so it's like if it's shit, it's her fault.
Yeah.
If it's good, it's her fault.
I just remember it being incredibly convoluted and like hard to follow.
Yeah.
So understand. Nick, you watched the Grand Budapest Hotel. Is this the first time you watched the?
It is. Yeah, it was on special on Google Play or whatever, so I bought it, and it was actually quite a shock. I loved it. I think it was an absolute treat to watch. The acting was great. It was shot fucking great. Like, just the way the actors interact with the scene and the set and the way it followed it around, kind of like I guess it was shot kind of like a toy house kind of.
I want to pause you for a sec to get some information to help me understand your opinions here. Is this your first Wes Anderson movie?
No, I absolutely love Life Aquatic. So.
Is this your second?
I love how that's your one pick.
I think this is my second. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff you're like this. I'm like, okay, that's all of his movies, but basically all of his movies. But
like it was an absolute treat to watch. Like the acting, the story, the intrigue, I don't know, just everything about it. Just I was enamored with it. It actually, in some points, it kind of reminded me in a way of Paddington 2. I guess in some of the way, especially the prison parts.
Yeah.
A lot of people make the similar sort of style for those movies. Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of like a children's movie, but for adults, I guess I want to say.
Which is pretty much
do you want some like hot trivia? Trivia for this movie that always makes me think it could have nearly been ruined was that apparently Johnny Depp was supposed to do the main role at one stage.
Oh, really?
He dropped out to do Moriko or whatever.
Mordecai,
and then Ralph Fiennes came in. Yeah, Mordecai or whatever. God. And I was like, oh, thank God.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure Wes Anderson would have made it work,
I can't even imagine what that movie would have been like with
but
him.
then Johnny Depp would be in every Wes Anderson movie afterwards, which would have not been as good. But yeah, I think that might be my favourite Wes Anderson movie. I haven't seen all of them, so it's hard to say. But of the ones I've watched,
That's a hard pick.
I rated it 10 out of 10. I loved it.
Cool. Dylan, you watched Four Lions, the terrorist comedy, right?
That's correct. The funny story for this one is I've had it this is one of those movies I've had on my movies I've wanted to watch for so many years that I remember back in the day I used to listen to the IGN UK podcast a lot when they had a different group of people in there, and most of them they were really into movies, and that was one of my main movie podcasts. And then when some of them left to different jobs like Empire and whatever else, I kind of stopped listening. But this was I remember when this movie came up, they were talking up a lot because obviously they're British, and it was written by Christopher Morris and directed by Christopher Morris, who's the dude most people would know for playing Renham in the first season of IT Crowd. But he also writes and directs a couple of things. So I remember when this came out, they're like, oh, the dude from IT Crowd's directed this whole movie and blah, 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 blah. It's funny to watch these days because Riz Ahmed's the main character in it, who's obviously in a lot more famous things these days, like Rogue One and Nightcrawler and whatever else.
Venom.
But yeah, the plot, I mean, I don't know how this would go if it came out today, because the plot is literally four British dudes who are we're gonna travel to fucking Pakistan, or I don't actually remember where they go in the fucking place to get their terrorism training, right? They're we're gonna go get terrorism training, we're gonna become terrorists, and it's that is the whole plot of the movie. But it's not super comedy, it's they're legit trying to get terrorist training and do they legit want to commit a terrorist act on people. That is the movie, but it's a comedy at the same time. And it does work because they somehow ride this fine line of it's not making fun of religions or terror. It's really just making fun of the whole fucking thing in a spectrum. I don't feel it was pinpointing one particular thing and being making fun of Islam or, anything like that. It's just making fun of the fucked up world we live in today and what would lead people to do this and, whatever else. I mean, it's quite old now, so I can spoil one scene, but there's literally a part where they're carrying a whole bunch of bombs along the streets of London, and one of them goes to hop over a fence and he trips and he blows up, and that's a thing, and he dies. And then everyone else is well, what the fuck happened? And he's well, he tripped over, now he's dead. And I'm this is, it goes dark comedy at times, but then other times I'm should I be laughing or should I not be laughing? I don't know. It was an interesting movie. It was quite an interesting movie. It would definitely for some people you'll laugh, and I feel for other people they'll be this is the worst thing I've ever watched. So I really, it's I don't know if I could suggest this or not. It's you would know if you would know deep inside if you would find this funny or not. I found it funny. You be your own judge.
Great. You also watched The Witch, the first movie by Roger Eggers.
I keep saying Eggers. Are we saying Eggers?
I'm not sure.
It's probably is. Eggers is probably wrong, surely. Matt, that can't be real, but that's what I've been saying.
Yeah, but we're Australian. We're going to call him Eggers. Come on.
Yeah. So obviously I wanted to watch this ahead of Lighthouse coming out. I've always I wanted to watch this when it came out. It never came to cinemas here, obviously. We'll fucking find out if the Lighthouse comes out here anyway. Hey,
I wouldn't get your hopes up.
But we'll
especially not Tasmania.
Yeah, I might end up waiting for Blu-ray as well. But so The Witch is, I find it hard to call it a horror movie, and it's I'm sure the Lighthouse is probably going to be the same, where it's I know a lot of people would be oh yeah, it is a horror movie. People die in it, and it's tense at times and whatever else. But I'm it's not really a horror movie. We're talking about Scream later. That's a horror movie, This is more this is a period piece thing dealing with a thing about, hey, imagine if there are witches. And I don't really want to spoil if there is actual witches in the movie or not, because obviously that's a plot device for like, are they going in? Is this family going insane as stuff happens? Because the movie kind of kicks off with this family being, like thrown out of this village. They're like, hey, you can't live here anymore. You got to go live on the outskirts and like fend for yourselves or whatever. It's a dad, mum, and the oldest girl is I don't know, Anya Taylor-Joy, who after this became a lot more famous because she then appeared in like Split and obviously Glass and whatever else. She was like the main girl and all that, but this was like her first thing. She's the main character, and there's like a couple younger siblings or whatever, and the baby just goes missing like in the first 15-20 minutes of the movie. This baby just disappears, and they're all like, it's witches, and this is based in real folklore or real tales from the time. Of course, this is around when people thought witches were real, and a baby disappears and everyone assumes it has to be witches. No, it's just like a fucking wolf could have stole it, a crow,
Dingo.
I don't know. It could, Dingo stole my fucking baby. It could have rolled off. No, everyone's just like, it's a witch. Obviously, it's a witch. What else could it be? And, that's unsettling. Babies getting stolen, grieving parents. The mother starts blaming the daughter because she was supposed to be watching him. So then it causes this kind of family rift to tear apart amongst all this. And it's like, well, this, it's happening here. And then, kind of plays out from there. But again, I'm like, horror movie. It's tense. I wouldn't call it a horror movie. I'd say it's like a thriller, like a period piece type thriller. But it's shot really beautifully. I love the fact that they use kind of a more period specific dialogue. Like they speak how they did then. They don't try and like up that. So like, thou daughter shall beg upon thee. Like all that sort of
Shakespearean kind of.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't know what the thing is, but yeah, that's how they speak, and I appreciate that. They shot it in like black and white and like 4:3, not 4:3 exactly, but that thing, and it looks really quite nice. So I enjoyed it. Made me look more forward to Lighthouse because I was like, this is just not like anything else I've watched, and I just want to watch The Lighthouse, and it's not going to come to my cinema, is it? Fuck my life.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to watch this one for a while. Like, it's on the top 3 like horror movies in quotation marks of someone that I follow that I've been quite keen to check it out, especially ahead of The Lighthouse as well.
Yeah. Maybe check splashingnerve.com. There might be a review for The Lighthouse. Oh. Just saying. I watched the final 2 parts of Crisis of the Infinite Earths crossover event from the CW shows.
Of course you did.
Yeah. It kind of went endgame-ish at a certain point during the first part where they sort of go...
Just say the big spoiler. It's all over the internet.
Nobody's going to watch it.
Oliver Queen dies. Again.
Son of a bitch.
But the big thing that obviously the internet went crazy about is Ezra Miller from the DC movie shows up for a small bit. For some reason.
That's what I meant.
Because he's not going to be in another movie again.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a toss-up which one's coming out first, the Uncharted movie or the Flash movie. I mean, it was fun. It was good to have them together. It didn't serve much story purpose, which I guess was...
Doesn't matter.
Which I guess doesn't matter in the long run.
Did they have the Spider-Man meme moment where they pointed at each other?
I mean, kind of. Well, they never pointed it. Well, kind of. They sort of touched each other's costumes and things, so...
Yeah. I bet they did.
Yeah.
Is that euphemisms?
Yeah. But yeah, I had a good time. I thought it was a good... And then it pretty much finishes setting up... It like the comic book event, all the universes, all the main worlds of the CW shows have all been melded together. So they're all on the same Earth now.
What?
Yep, that's the big thing.
Crazy.
Supergirl's in the same world as Flash and Black Lightning. Crazy. And at the end...
When they already?
No, he was in a separate Earth. Yeah. So then they set up all the other Earths, all the Titans and the Doom Patrols and everything are all on their separate Earths as well. They had a shot from Green Lantern, which I found very amusing. Like the actual Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern.
From the movie.
Yeah. They didn't show him.
Movie.
They just showed Oa from that movie, like with the giant Green Lantern thing on it.
Wow.
Yeah. They used... yeah. And then they sort of implied there is a Justice League on this Earth now. And that's how they ended the crossover. So I had a good time. It was enjoyable. I'm sure if you've been following these shows for a long time, it was a good, fun ride. Dylan, did you get around to watching it? I don't think you did. The last 2 parts, yeah. But yeah, so I'd like to hear your opinions when you eventually get around to it. Before we jump into the mandatory Netflix segment, buddy, there is one show that you watch that fascinates me, that you have such deep desire and interest in. Not Survivor, because we all know you're a huge fan of Survivor.
Yeah, no, that's the best TV show on ever.
So I hear. Terrace House.
Oh,
Or Terrace House.
Terrace House, baby.
Tell me about this. What is it? Why should people be watching it?
Terrace House is on Netflix. It is a reality show. It takes place in Tokyo, where there is a house, obviously, and they put there's 6 individuals in there, 3 women and 3 men, and there's no real goal. There's like no challenges or none of that. They just live in the house together, and they go to work and they go about their business, you know, and live life. So, it can be really uneventful, and then there can be some kind of, you know, things that pop up. In between, about 2 or 3 times each episode, it will cut to kind of like these Japanese personalities that will kind of commentate on what's going on and who their favorite is and who they hope should hook up together, or, all that kind, you know, all that kind of stuff. And, it's really fascinating, and the reason it fascinates me is because it's kind of identifies like the real cultural differences, and how I guess they are in Japanese people are in how reserved they are, or whether when they're pursuing someone, or how dedicated they are to their career and kind of the dreams they're kind of following. That people's, you know, kind of being in the house for different reasons is to, you know, I want to pursue my career, or do this or do that, or focus on learning English, or find love, or whatever. So it's kind of, you know, it really, there's this theme of when someone, you know, kind of strikes out, or is not really as motivated for being in the house, or getting kind of sidetracked with their career, they will usually like leave Terrace House, and over that course, you know, new house members will come in and out. Doesn't happen super often, but maybe 2 or 3 times a season, it'll happen. I think there's like 30, 40 episodes in a season, and it happens over like 3 to 4, even 6 months, I think, 3 to 6 months or whatever. So, yeah, it's my little obsession. There's like 4 or 5 seasons on at the moment. They did one in Hawaii, but the first one I saw they did in Tokyo, and now they're back in Tokyo, and it's kind of a lot better than the previous seasons that I'm watching. So, yeah, it's really
Sounds like Big Brother crossed with Gogglebox.
It is. It's Big Brother without, like, I want to be a star and I want to be on TV and I want to get into radio after getting voted out of this reality show and want to be here
Leave
for
Fitzy
popularity.
alone.
Hey?
Leave Fitzy alone.
It's more than Fitzy, it's all of them.
Sarah Marie.
And there's no turkey. And there's no turkey slapping going on in Terrace House. There's no Terrace House after dark. There's no bullshit. And another factor that I really like, and this might just be, I guess, movies and how we consume movies and TV these days as well. I'm finding with the subtitles, you really have to be engaged when watching. You can't just flip through your phone or get distracted or annoyed. So, I guess that's another one that kind of really keeps you focused in and maybe more engaged with it. So
So you're going to start watching more anime.
I have been watching anime. I've recently watched Cowboy Bebop 3 episodes.
Well, actually, you don't need to worry about that because dubs are better.
Oh,
Well, I'm watching Cowboy Bebop dubbed because I heard it's actually one of the better kind of dubbed versions of anime. So, yeah, from what I've seen so far, it's fantastic.
Awesome. It's all good news. So yes, Terrace House, Netflix. Speaking of Netflix, let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. I've watched part 3 of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It's the best part so far. It's probably the best run of it. It's got the best episodes of the show so far. I think, obviously, they shot the first 2 parts back to back. So this is the first time they had like a break in between to like since the show was actually been released. So like they've obviously heard some, like, responded to a little bit of feedback. They got rid of that statue that they got sued for, like, real quick. Not a single shot in the whole entire season.
Oh, the Church of Satan one in the middle of the school.
Yeah, they got rid of that real quick. But yeah, I think it's a fun story. They've got like a full through line. They've got like a real threat this season of these pagans who like Earth God like creatures. Like there's one of the creatures like Pan, like the god Pan, who like if you look at him you go crazy. There's a Medusa in the group, and yeah, so they come into the town as part of a carnival. They're trying to use Greendale to resurrect their god or whatever, like some nefarious plot. Then Sabrina is on a quest to defend her claim as Queen of Hell, because she accidentally becomes Queen of Hell. Yeah, so she has to go on some quest to collect a bunch of unholy items to fill the quest, and a bunch of crazy witch stuff happens all the time. So yeah, I had a really good time. My one issue with the show, or one issue with this season part or whatever, I wish they'd use a better word to describe it than part. Just call it Series 3 or Season 3, whatever. They constantly shoehorning musical numbers into the show, which was another thing that started to get bad about Riverdale, I feel like. But this show especially, like, there seems to be a musical number every single episode.
What do you mean musical number? Like a legit musical number?
No, like, well, they like sing
Montage?
a song.
They actually sing a song.
Yes. Not like it doesn't. Not like
So it's Glee now.
So
it's the Chilling Adventures
You're
of
telling
Glee.
me jump the shark.
No, it's just there's like some fun things like the Mr. C and Hilda, who aren't like sing a number from Sweeney Todd, like they're auditioning for the play, and like, but then they've got numbers where the three of the kids have started a band, they're playing songs in the garage, and then Sabrina walks in and she's got some problem. They do like 2 or 3 times, exactly the same way.
Sabrina walks in, she got some problem.
It's true. That girl, she always got problem. But yeah.
She only got problems.
But yeah, I feel the last 2 episodes make the whole season worthwhile, make all these musical numbers worthwhile. It's a brilliant combination of the story, the whole season, and it's probably the 2 best episodes of the show so far. And it leaves it on a note that has got me super excited about part 4 or season 4 or whatever. Yeah, so definitely worth checking out if you like that kind of stuff. I've seen people be pretty happy with this season so far, so I think I gave it 8.5 on the website. You can go check out my review over there. Nick, as we were finishing the mandatory Netflix segment last episode, you were desperate to start talking about the show You, and I said, Nick, I know you've only watched 1 season, so you watch season 2, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about You. So why don't you talk about You 1 and 2?
Well, I was born in Mater Hospital in 1990.
Yep.
Oh, you mean the show? Yeah, it's good.
He waits out. See, he knows. Like, you can see... Audiences can't see the sly smirk on his face, because he just knows he plays into his own fucking character now. And then Ash will respond, "No, do you want to give a bit more than that?" Everyone, Nick's a character.
It's a thing.
Oh, Nicholas Poyer.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. It's about this guy called Joe who he's working at a bookshop, and this girl comes in, and then he gets infatuated with her, and then he practically becomes her stalker and manipulates her life into ending up in a relationship with him, and it just keeps on going south. And that was the first season, and then the second season he moves cities, and then he just falls into the same kind of trappings where in the second season, I guess you could, in a way, it starts off as, I guess, the same thing over and over again, but in the end it pays off. Like, it subverts different things that you expect coming, and the acting was really good. Like, it's you kind of find yourself rooting for him, even though he is a really shit human being. I guess.
I have one question for this show, directly to that point you just said. The reason I've never bothered trying to watch this show is because I watched the trailer, and straight away I was like, I want to punch this guy in the face. Why the fuck would I spend any time with this show and this character?
I guess say rooting for him is, I guess, not a accurate term, but like you can feel the tension of when he's about to get caught. I guess like you want him to get caught as well, but you feel the tension of it happening and like I guess almost getting there. I don't know. It's an interesting show. Like my wife binged it, and then she binged it again with me. Like it.
Wow. Fucking calm down, Stacey.
She watched it twice.
yeah, I guess the perks of working at home. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's interesting, unique, different. Yeah, well acted. The second season has one of the actresses out of Haunting Hill House. But yeah, it's really, really good. I really enjoyed it.
Sounds like it's kind of like Dexter. Is that kind of a similar?
Yeah, you definitely get, I guess, Dexter kind of vibes as well. Like he's methodical, kind of sociopathic, but I guess where in Dexter's own mind he was doing it for good. He, I guess, is holding up to this ideal version of women that doesn't reflect reality, and he's fucked up for it.
Interesting. I have heard great things.
I also saw that you watched, finally finished Series 3 of The Crown, Nick.
Oh, yes.
Does Queen Elizabeth live at the end?
She does.
Boo.
The season 3 is, I said earlier, like a few episodes ago, that it advances in time where it's played all by different actors, but this one, I guess, explores more of the family. Like it's starting to bring in Princess and Prince Charles and their lives and the way they're affected by everything. I mean, it's all based off history, so I guess there's no real surprises if you know that, but it's extremely well acted, and I'm anti-monarchist to the core, but I guess this kind of, in a way, makes you sympathise with their lives. I don't know how accurate it is, but I guess the way they're shut off from the rest of the world and treated differently, like, it makes you kind of, I guess, appreciate their position, I guess, and the struggles they face, but yeah, I think it's definitely worth a watch, and if you're interested in historical drama, it's quite one of the better ones I've seen, which I didn't realise it's made by the same guy that did The Queen, the movie with Helen Mirren, and his partner, Gillian Anderson, has been cast as Princess Diana for next series as well.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, no, not Princess Diana, Margaret Thatcher.
I was going to say, that's...
Yeah.
Using the
Sorry,
aging
that-
technology
odd-
again from The Irishman.
Yeah.
Casting choice.
Yeah, sorry.
She could do it, though. So you're Team Megan, then?
I'm not team either of them. I'm team abolishment.
Meg's it.
Nick, I saw that you watched The Two Popes. What do you think?
I did.
Was there two? No, popish,
I mean, there are still two, but
technically.
yeah, it's very slow, but I guess in a way it works. It's like definitely a character study focusing on, I guess, the two popes, Pope Benedict and Pope Francis, and the way that Pope Francis became the Pope, and he's, I guess, even though they're not radical now, but they're definitely radical to the church in the way he's very libertine in advancing causes and like reform within the church as well. Like, it's definitely acted extremely well. Like, Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins put in stellar performances, and a lot of it is just the two characters talking with flashbacks and their lives and stuff like that, but the way that they interact with each other and, I guess, bounce back and forth with each other. I guess for me as well, like, I took a little bit more out of it being Catholic as well, and I guess knowing a little bit of the inner workings in a way. But if you're into, I guess, religious drama, I guess, if that's a genre, or history as well, it's definitely worth watching. I think it's one of the better movies I've seen of recent times. But I can definitely see how people who are critical of the church as well could, I guess, not get as much from it as well. Like, it definitely doesn't tackle, like, the glaring issue head on of the pedophilia and all that, but it's certainly, they don't shy away from it either. But it's not about that. It's more about those two as people as opposed to the church as a whole.
Cool. All right, let's move on. So the 92nd Academy Awards are coming up on the 9th of February. They were announced, like, pretty much after we recorded last time, a couple of weeks ago. we're going to be going over all the best pictures, I think. Best picture nominees, because I'm very grateful that Buddy's here, because he's the only other person who's watched all of them that I know.
I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry.
You should be.
So
Your lack of dedication to this show sickens me, Dylan.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't be that hard to get plane flight to see.
Oh my god.
Parasite.
Yeah. Can't afford it, swim.
See? Yeah. Why didn't you watch Ford vs Ferrari or Jojo Rabbit?
Don't know. You could have been a solid bro, Ashley, and just filmed the screen and sent it to us.
No, it's unethical. I'm sure if you want to, you can find it if you wanted it illegally, you could get it by now.
Oh, I guess dedication to the show, Ashley. You have none. I understand.
Opens up torrent site, searches Ashley Hobley Cam.
I don't want to know what that brings
I
up.
hope there's nothing. Nothing comes up.
That could be anything.
It could be anything. Yeah,
Yeah, you'll learn.
Hobley. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Well, guys,
yeah.
that's some credit
But yeah, how do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about the nominations overall? Obviously, there were some disappointment about there not being any female director nominees, and also that a majority of the acting nominees were not very diverse. And by not very diverse, I mean there is only one person of color in the nominees. But how do you feel, Dylan? How do you feel about the nominees for this year's Oscars?
Well, I was about as disappointed as I find myself usually every year. I feel like I get really disappointed when they announce them. I'm always like, this is fucking bullshit. But then I think back, I'm like, yeah, but this is what I was saying last year and the year before. I'm like, there's no year where I'm like, oh yeah, I can. There's some interesting choices, but I can understand what they've done here. Obviously, there's just a lot of weird snubs, I guess. Like, actresses category, the director category, the best actors category, I don't know, there's a lot. There's, like, if there was only one, where I was like, oh, this should have been nominated for best picture, or like, this person missed out for this, or whatever, you can be like, oh, okay, whatever, I understand. But then there's even stuff that a lot of people were like, for sure, dead set would be nominated, stuff that I haven't even seen yet, like Uncut Gems. Like, everyone was like, no way that shit ain't getting nominated for, like, actor, screenplay, some shit. Zero. Eddie Murphy over here. Everyone's like, okay, creep in, whatever else. Obviously, the Greta Gerwig thing's probably the thing that rubbed me the wrong way the most, like snubbing her for director, if I had to pick one thing. But yeah, it's the Academy. It's a bunch of old white people sitting up in their high couches. Yeah.
Nick, was there anything you were particularly aggrieved by?
I'm only really looking at the nominations now, but no. I mean, my thoughts about award shows are not very secretive, so...
It's good to know. Buddy, did you have any strong feelings about anything?
Yeah, Lupita for us.
Yeah.
Probably the farewell as well,
yes,
for kind of anything. I agree with Dylan about Greta Gerwig, and probably the other big thing was probably Booksmart as well, to see that not get anything was pretty disappointing as well. Even though it's a comedy, but I thought there would probably be maybe some actress nod there or something, but yeah, not to be. So just watch it and get angry about it on the internet. That's
how you deal with anything.
The status quo. Yeah, that's right.
That's the way.
This is the way. Yeah, I was pretty disappointed the farewell got nothing. Particularly, I thought Awkwafina would maybe squeezed in, especially both her and Taron Egerton obviously won Golden Globes the weekend before the nominees were announced. I thought that might have gotten them a bit of a push, but that's disappointing they didn't get anything, even though they were up for SAG Awards, I think, as well. Jennifer Lopez, obviously, very surprised she didn't get Best Supporting Actress. And then, yeah, I think that was the most surprising. Obviously, Greta Gerwig, I thought she would have been in the top 5 directors, but it didn't turn out that way. Although I am sick of the joke of, nobody directed Little Women. No, there's only 5 directing spots. Yeah, there's only 5 slots for every nomination. So, I mean, you can only fit 5 people in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joker sucks, so I don't know how that made it.
we'll get into this.
Why don't they just change it like the Australian Game Awards, where they have about 30 fucking nominations for each category?
Yeah, just put Greta
no,
Gerwig in Best Cinematographer for Best Director and let her win that.
Okay.
Best RPG, Greta Gerwig.
Was there any nomination? Were there any nominations that you were particularly pleased with? Because for me, seeing Ryan Johnson get nominated for Best Original Screenplay made me pretty happy. As well as Florence Pugh picking up the Best Supporting Actress nomination. Seeing her reaction as well was pretty great.
Yeah, that was fantastic. See Ryan Johnson get that credit. Obviously, I'm a Parasite stan. Since kind of seeing that last year and everything that gets nominated, I just want it to win as much as possible, especially if Joker's in that kind of category as well. What else? Those are the big ones.
I'm surprised that Vice didn't get nominated for anything.
That was the year before. Yeah. Because, Christian Bale was nominated for...
Maybe I shouldn't be surprised.
I think it was a 2019 movie for us.
I saw it New Year's Day last year, so...
I was pretty happy. It's weird. I'm a Parasite stan that hasn't seen the movie, but I was happy to see all their reactions on Twitter. That's been good to see. That's been good. I mean, I'm a fan of the director, but I just don't watch his movies. Other than that, I mean, I don't really think Sarah's Ronan, I guess. Probably just I just hope she wins that as well. But that's probably else. Probably it. Ryan Johnson, obviously, but you already mentioned that.
Yeah, cool.
So how about Order?
Terrible.
No.
Yeah, disappointed to see that get nominated for something.
So let's just talk about some of the Best Picture nominees. The Joker, up for the most awards for the night with 11 nominations. Why is this a nominee? I mean, it might just be the bubble that we're all in that has turned on this movie. I feel like ever since it won the Golden Lion, people who went to that first screening really liked it, and then everybody in the film criticism spectrum afterwards has not been as hot. Why is Joker? Is it just because it's made so much money? Is it because, like, hey, this is a comic book movie that's kind of serious. You want us to put more comic book movies into the Best Picture race? Is that what
we don't though?
I'd just like to point out. I don't want that. Every time someone's like, "Oh, Joker is finally getting Oscar movies, getting comic book movies treated seriously," it's like Black Panther was nominated for stuff.
Dark Knight
was won stuff. Like, can we every time a comic book movie gets nominated for some sort of Academy Award, can we stop being like, finally they're taking us seriously? Like, the only movie I feel like they've legit shafted has been Logan over the past couple of years. Other than that, the ones that got nominated deservedly got it, in my opinion.
Suicide Squad.
It did get
Oscar winner. Suicide Squad.
They had good makeup and hairstyling. I know it's a meme, but I'm like, it was the only good part of the movie. Like, what do you want to argue about? It's
argument.
the only good part of the movie.
What you're saying just then, but they're finally going to take us seriously. And then all these like foreign films over in the corner are just looking over, like it's raining, they're getting wet on, they're screaming language that we don't understand about how they're not getting any assist as well. So,
well, not the last couple of years.
Yeah.
No. But also, it's like the Joker. I don't know the Joker narrative. It's like it was getting rave reviews, and I went into it hoping to like it because everyone was saying it was really good. I walked out and was like, from the second get go, I'm like, fucking trash. What's the big deal? What's the big deal with this? So I feel like my narrative's always been the same. I feel like maybe there's been like a bigger wave of like negativity towards it since it started getting nominated. I guess like suddenly a lot of people were like, that may have been quieter before. But then again, I would say a lot of that's actually just people who like getting into fights on Twitter, being like, "Oh, the movie's nominated. It's time for me to suddenly start a row," and start getting involved for whatever reason, because that's the way their brains are switched on.
I think a turning point for the movie was when that interview with Todd Phillips came out as well.
Yeah, which one?
I don't know. One of the ones I didn't.
The
read
one where he
into any
said
of
he
it.
didn't want to be part of comedy anymore because
Yeah,
he
something
couldn't-
like that.
Nobody takes a joke anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Something that everyone found controversial. I mean,
Yeah, because he's like, you can't make funny movies anymore. Everyone's over here is like, Booksmart's hilarious and one of the most interesting comedies we've had in ages. Todd Phillips is like, you can't do comedies anymore. Fucking guy. Get out of here, you trash.
I mean, I like the movie, so I'm not upset about it.
I mean, it's fine. I think I gave it like a 7.5 in my review, but that's purely because Joaquin Phoenix is carrying that movie on his back, which is impressive because he looks as skinny as a rake.
Even if I liked the movie, I would say Todd Phillips' comments would have made me dislike the movie. If I liked it, I feel.
No, I'm not saying you personally, but a lot of the public discourse about it.
Well, he was.
Because you know what outrage Twitter's like. As soon as they get their hooks into something, it's-
Absolutely.
Wasn't making it easier for him. It's just
Yeah. I
stayed
think
off
what you were saying
interviews.
before, Ash, about should it be even nominated with 11 nominations? Like, I don't think. I think it definitely deserves. It's probably worthy of a few nominations, but
Some.
the very fact that it's got 11, I think, is the thing that pisses a lot of people off. When is it up there with a Titanic or a kind of a Lord of the Rings, or even I think Forrest Gump got a lot as well, or is it kind of that caliber movie?
Return of the King.
Yeah, Return of the King. And with that kind of discourse as well, I think I said this as well, the people that love that movie or liked that movie are gonna love it even more now, and the people that kind of thought it was okay or fine are gonna like hate on this movie. It's gonna be like two polar opposites now. It's gonna stretch it out, and we're gonna kind of it's just gonna amplify things, as it happens. Like, I said before, I made jokes just before, movie shit, whatever, as long as Joker doesn't win, blah, blah, blah. I still gave that a 3 out of 5 stars. There's still elements of the movie that I liked as well, but, I just kind of don't see what the people that are frothing over it see.
Yeah, and I gave it like a 6.
Yes.
Which is like,
The
it's
same.
okay. And I've watched it. Yeah, it's basically accepted to be 3. Yeah, it's like, I think it's fine. Okay. I've watched it twice. I didn't like to see if I'd even like it more, and I was still like, nope, whatever. But it's like I think the problem also is like the people are standing this movie. If I want to be real cool and use the proper language that the Twitter people use, right? People are standing this movie so hard that if you say that you think it's okay, that suddenly turns into like if I'm like, I gave it like a 6. You gave it a 1? No. I said I gave it. You gave it a 1. No. I said it was a 1. 6. Like it's either like you love it or you fucking hate it.
Yeah.
A lot of the discourse around this reminds me a lot of The Last Jedi, where the people who love it, and I guess the attacking each other on either side of whether you liked it or hated it.
Similar,
online
I guess.
as well.
Except for I don't think this movie is as bad as a lot of people say it is. Like I don't think it's a 1, and I definitely don't think it's as good as anyone says it is.
No, but I guess it's just the nature of social media these days, where you have to be on side of an issue and you have to go to bat for it.
Let's talk about another one that got a lot of nomination. Is kind of the forerunner at the moment, I think. 1917. Me and Dylan both talked about it last episode. Nick, you watched it straight after. You told us you didn't want to be on the episode while we were talking about it. You were so wanting to go in clean.
Yes.
Is 1917 worthy of a Best Picture nomination?
In my eyes, like, I've only seen a handful of the top movies, but in my eyes, I think it's one of the better movies I've ever seen. Like, it affected me in a way so emotionally and I guess even physically that no other movie has done before. I mean, I am extremely interested in World War One, so I don't know if that improves my opinion on it or not. But
You're a mark, I think they say, right?
I am.
Yeah.
That term is
The
correct.
mark, I was a mark. But just, I guess the way it captures the essence of the war and the brutality, the just endlessness of it, the mindlessness of it is just phenomenal. I mean, in my mind, I can't fault it at all. Like, there's not a single fault with that movie for me.
Cool. Buddy, what do you think of the 1917?
Was fantastic as well. I loved it more so on a technical level than anything. I don't really want to speak ill of it, but I don't think I could pick any kind of too many parts that I didn't like about it, but I wasn't enamored with it as much as what I wanted it to be. But in saying that, I still think if it won Best Picture, as much as I have other favourites in front of it, I could see it that wouldn't surprise or really disappoint me greatly.
Sense.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones that would make sense, especially with how the Academy votes as well. And I love the kind of unconventional nature of it in the same kind of breath as what Dunkirk did in telling their kind of war story as well. Because we've seen so many war movies, but I loved that different take with the whole one shot. So
cool. Dylan, how do you feel about 1917 as Best Picture?
Yeah, it'd be fine. I mean, I was just thinking as you were saying that, like, because I was like, I counted. I'm like, okay, I've seen oh fuck, I just forgot 6 or 7, whatever it is, of the nominees, right? And only one of them I'm completely against winning. But I just want to live in a world where they nominate the Oscars, and as long as you could have your favorite or whatever. But I feel like I just want the Best Picture nominees to all be ones where you're like, yeah, like it doesn't matter whatever wins. You're like, yeah, that was a good movie, but obviously you have your favorite. I just don't like where I'm like, there's one sore thumb where I'm like, why the fuck is that in there? Like that's the thing that annoys me. Like there's just one movie. I'm like, oh, ruin it.
At least you can go 1917, the winner. It's not the Green Book.
Well,
I mean, yeah, it's pretty safe. So another film up for a lot of nominations, The Irishman. To Nick's surprise, obviously, Nick, you said before, Irishman, not a fan?
No. I'm not surprised it got nominated, but I'm not a fan of it at all. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't a seminal work in my eyes.
Buddy, how do you feel about The Irishman?
I thought The Irishman was awesome. I feel like it's not going to win a lot, though, this year. I think it's kind of in one of those years where maybe in another year it could have maybe picked up or jagged a few awards here, but I think it's going to walk home kind of empty-handed. So
It shouldn't have been fucking nominated for Best Visual Effects at all.
well, I can't wait to get into our predictions.
Dylan, I think you were the strongest advocate of The Irishman. Do you
I'm an
suspect The Irishman
Irishman
will take
mark.
home much?
I think is what they said. Yeah, I love this movie. I was in fact I was listening to when I was listening to the Directors Guild episode where they was talking about it. It just made me want to start rewatching the movie again. So
we are not sponsored by the Directors Guild of America podcast.
But I am listening to a lot of that podcast currently, like a ridiculous amount. But no, I obviously love The Irishman. I talked about it a lot. I gave it, I don't remember, 9.5 something. I don't know. I love it. It's that we talked about before. I do agree that there are slight moments where the CGI is faulty, but I would say for the most part, like the high majority of the movie, I had no problems with it. And for that reason, I love the story, the acting, the general tale about this guy. And it's like, what was the meaning of his whole life and whatever else. Like I found the more I think about the ending of that movie, I think the more I like it. Is the thing I kind of hang on the week since I've watched it, obviously, or month or however long it's been now. When did it come out? Late November or some shit? Fuck, I can't remember. But yeah, the more I think about it, I was just thinking about that final scene and like what that final moment of the movie means for the whole 3 hours beforehand, and that makes me appreciate the movie a lot more. So I'm very happy with all the nominees I got.
Let's talk about Little Women. Obviously, it got some nominations, not as much as we'd hoped, I guess. Do we think Little Women will do very much this Oscars night?
Here's what I feel think, Ashley.
Yeah.
Want to hear some hot takes? Prediction?
Sure.
Right now. Explosion Network top 10
Greta
movies.
Gerwig going to win by write-in.
Explosion Network top 10 movies of 2020. I'll be highly surprised if this doesn't make it. I know we're in January or about to be February, but I'm calling that prediction right now. Yeah. This movie's going to win all the awards it's nominated for. No, it won't. I hope it does. Let me say that. I hope it wins all the awards it's nominated for.
All right. Buddy, how do you feel about Little Women?
I loved it. A lot more than what I thought it was going to. I loved how they kind of did the jump between different times. There's a really emotional scene, kind of towards towards the end, that kind of really hit me in the watching it in the cinema, like, and that was just like, damn, that was just perfect how that was kind of all set up. But yeah,
you can say without spoilers, it's the kitchen scene, I guess.
Yeah, the kitchen scene.
For people have seen it
for the second time down the stairs. I don't see it winning a lot though. Yeah, I don't know. I really loved it.
Yeah, I really loved it as well. I find it surprising that people have issues with the keeping track of like the time when things are taking place. I didn't understand why people have issues with that.
It's not hard at all.
That seems to be, But yeah, some people. That's
are
a
people
criticism
saying this Joker stance, or
no? Just I've seen people say they've had trouble keeping up with the timeline in the movie, but
the characters are in different fucking locations in the timelines as well.
I don't know. Yeah,
it's like The Witcher.
It's not The Witcher. I mean, if you're able to follow The Witcher, I mean, you can follow pretty much anything. So, yeah, I suspect it's not going to take him anything. I think its best chance is best adapted screenplay, but I think even that's might be a long shot. But we'll see when we get to predictions.
Yep.
Long Shot should have been nominated.
Sorry?
Long Shot should have been nominated.
Well, yeah. There's a few scripts that should have been nominated that unfortunately didn't get in there, but yeah. Marriage Story. I think, obviously, it's our 2019 film of the year, the Explosion Network movie of the year. I think we all really love that film. I'm surprised it didn't get as much. Well, it's obviously gotten a lot of nominations, but it's probably not in as high a discussion as we thought it would be going in.
Because they allotted all their Netflix noms for The Irishman.
Yes, they should have not shown The Irishman, then the Marriage Story would have gotten everything. But Buddy, did you watch Marriage Story?
Yeah, I watched it recently. Oh my god, how powerful was that movie? Behind Parasite, it's my movie of the year. And I thought everything about it was amazing, all the performances. I'm generally not a ScarJo fan, but this is easily the best thing I've ever seen her in. And it was hard to it's sometimes hard to go into a movie that she's in. Cause one, I generally don't think she's a good actress. And, two, I just don't kind of seem to like her, with who she deals with, her views on stuff, and kind of what she's come across as a person outside of it. So sometimes watching her movies really pull me out of it, but I never really had that moment in this. And she was fantastic. And Adam Driver was great as well. And I kind of liked everything about it. And it probably resonates even more so since I've been married the last couple of years as well, and kind of how heartbreaking that was, and a few emotional moments. But if I'm marking out for Parasite and wanting that to win everything, if it doesn't, then Marriage Story is probably the movie that I'm kind of championing to win as many awards as possible. So I really feel that kind of what you're saying before, that's not really spoken about, or kind of, it's not really under the radar, but I feel like if it got a cinema release, maybe there'd be more buzz.
It got limited,
and so did The Irishman as well. I can see why The Irishman did, specifically with kind of how long it goes for and how many screens you get that on, and movies you could fit around it, and kind of the financial money making decision to a cinema. But I really thought something like Marriage Story would have been able to thrive in a mainstream release. I don't know what it was kind of came out against when it did come out, and whether that was a feasible option or not, but I just think it would have benefited even more for that. So
yeah. I think Marriage Story would have been cool to see on the big screen, but yeah.
Yeah, I especially love how it really feels like the way it's shot has that kind of with that Technicolor type filter over it where nothing kind of pops out. I really loved that.
Cool.
One that I was surprised to see nominated was Jojo Rabbit. Like, I haven't seen it, but all the trailers make it out to be a comedy, and I don't really recall comedies being that very highly regarded in the Oscars.
All right, let's jump into Jojo Rabbit. I have put it on my top 10. I was surprised that it was nominated for Best Picture. I don't think it's a Best Picture film. But, buddy, I saw out of all these nominees, it's the one you didn't like the most.
Yeah, worse than Joker. It's also on my top 10 of 2019, Ash. A different top 10. I thought this is kind of without, I won't say too much, but I think, like you're saying, it was a comedy, Nick, and comedies don't get much love. And, that might be a little people's excuse for kind of book smart kind of getting overlooked. But I really feel that, Jojo Rabbit in there kind of defies that. And I really feel it was like tonally all over the place. And the whole playing as Hitler I never really clicked for me. Some of the jokes were just on and off, but trying to be serious at one moment and, that dark humor the next. And I once again, ScarJo, she got nominated for this as Best Supporting Actress.
That was a surprise as well.
And I don't think she's even good in this. I don't think, I think the girl, the young girl that plays,
Thomasin McKenzie.
Yeah, that's right. I think she's the movie, really. She's the standout. Yeah. So, yeah, didn't like this at all.
Yeah, I would have put her above ScarJo for Best Supporting Actress. But yeah, I obviously really enjoyed it. It just clicked. I feel like, this is one of those movies that will click for people and won't click for people. I think it accidentally got in because it's set during the war and, it's a war movie. Let's nominate it.
What's the name of that war movie that's doing really good? Yeah, just put war movie. Oh, war movie. Jojo Rabbit. That's the one. We'll put it in.
It's a general thing, yeah.
It's got Jewish people in it. Yes.
Oh my god!
That's Hollywood.
Yeah, Uncut Gems didn't make it, but this has got Jewish people in it. Let's go.
It's only got a couple. Another one that the other two haven't watched. Ford v Ferrari. I feel like this is the one that is definitely most not going to win out of this whole bunch of Best Picture nominees. Buddy?
Well, Jojo Rabbit, that's Jojo Rabbit for me.
Yeah.
Especially what Nick was saying because it's a
bottom
comedy.
Two, probably.
But yeah, I would put Ford versus Ferrari in that as well. I thought it was kind of very. I don't want to say it's very what you're going to get with the story, formulaic, without kind of trying to say that as a negative. The star of the movie really is, I think, the performances of Bale. Also, Matt Damon as well. And, what's Christian Bale's wife in the movie? I can't remember her name for the life of me.
Can't even picture
Catriona, Balfe. Is that her name? Yeah. And yeah, she's fantastic as well. So, yeah. Ford versus Ferrari, I liked it. But yeah, more so over the technical aspects of the movie and how they did than the whole package, really.
Yeah, I feel like it's being elevated by the technical elements. I feel like it's obviously getting a nomination in a lot of those categories. Maybe that's what,
and maybe the star power in it as well.
Although I was surprised Christian Bale didn't get a nomination. Christian Bale's surprising.
Yeah, he was quite good. I'd agree with that as well. Yeah, very surprising.
Bloody Irishman stealing all the nominees.
Yeah.
Again. We might as well talk about the elephant in the room. Parasite. One of the best movies of 2019. Can it win Best Picture?
Yes.
We know it should. It should, out of these nominees, it should.
I don't know if it should. I haven't seen it.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about it. Should it win? We know it should. Will it win?
I don't know if it will win, but I definitely feel this has a better chance of what Roma does compared to last year. I feel like there's a real buzz about it, more so than what we had with Roma.
Well, I think this is more a fun film. Like, there's a fun element to this that people
use the term fun loosely.
yeah, very loosely. But it's like a ride, this movie. It takes you on an emotional roller coaster. And I feel like it's much more enjoyable for the average cinema goer. That's why it's been playing in major cities for like 26, 27 weeks here in Australia.
Yes. All major cities.
Keep selling out. Yeah. All important cities, yes.
Yes, that's right.
So, I'm happy. I was surprised it got a lot of other nominations, obviously for editing, for screenplay, for a bunch of stuff. But yeah, so I think it has got a real chance at Best Picture. I mean, I know we talked about Green Book last year, but the year before that, Shape of Water won. So anything is possible.
Shape of Water wasn't a foreign film.
It was pretty close. And I mean... so yeah. And then last but not least, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I would say that's probably the other strong candidate for Best Picture. Probably that Parasite in 1917 are battling it out. How do you feel about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, buddy?
Yeah, agreed. This is kind of in my top 3 of the Best Picture nominees as well. I love everything about it. But I just... Once again, I just don't know if they'll give it to it. I just have this lingering doubt over whether they're going to give him Best Picture. And whether they'll, it'll win any other kind of awards outside of acting awards with kind of Brad Pitt with the Best Supporting Actor. Yeah. So, yeah, I love it. It's definitely, like I said, in my top echelon of those movies, and it would be great to see that win as well.
Here's the big spoiler. Tarantino will never win an Oscar because I don't want him up there giving a speech because they'll have to drag out the fucking showtime of the Oscars by an extra half an hour.
Yeah.
As he's up
what does
there
it matter? No one watches it anyway.
I do.
Yeah, you'd love it, so it's putting right into you.
Oh yeah, I'd love listening to Tarantino's.
The orchestra's going to just play real quick.
I just want to thank God for making feet.
Shout out to Brad Pitt for that excellent SAG roast.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah. All right, so that's all the Best Picture nominees. We're going to get into our predictions now. We're going to go through all 24 categories. We're going to give you our predictions. The winner gets the awesome prize of getting to pick something that the other people need to watch. If you remember from earlier...
I didn't know about that.
From last year. Yeah. Buddy, I don't know if you're going to be back on anytime soon. You might not have to face any of these repercussions.
Wow, already getting a performance evaluation and the episode hasn't ended.
No, it's like timing-wise.
Ashley's a harsh mistress.
Honestly, for you, it's a free swing. So
it's all right. I've already beaten one Explosion Network member in a predictions thing this year. Hopefully I can beat a few more.
I don't think there's any proof of that, so we'll just move on. Yeah. So how about we start with Best Visual Effects. Nominees are Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Dylan, what's your prediction?
The Irishman, I think it's going to be hilarious when a Scorsese film wins Best Visual Effects.
Hugo would have been up for Best Visual Effects, I would have thought.
No idea. Deservedly.
Just saying.
But no idea.
Yeah. Buddy, what's your pick?
Also The Irishman, and yeah, that would be a fantastic moment for the internet to descend into chaos. Even more chaos.
Cool. It beat Endgame? No!
Nick, what's your guess?
1917.
1917, solid pick. And I went with Avengers Endgame, I think. Obviously, Infinity War didn't get pushed last year because they were pushing for Black Panther, which did pick up Best Visual Effects, so same team, probably going to pick it up. Best Sound Mixing, the nominees are Ad Astra, Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Dylan?
Ad Astra for its lack of sound, but making of the best sound mixing.
Buddy?
I'm going to go Ford versus Ferrari.
Nick?
Ad Astra.
I went 1917. I feel like... We'll talk about this in sound editing, but I feel like war movies has a good history in getting...
The sound for Ad Astra is almost on the same level as A Quiet Place in that kind of... the way it affects the movie.
Did Quiet Place win?
I don't know. But it's on that level.
Fuck if I know. I don't remember what wins sound mixing every year. Struggle to remember what wins Best Picture.
Oh, I watch the Oscars every year.
That's what you always said. No, what it does.
He can't remember. He watches it 2.5 speed. Give him a break.
It's true. It's true.
Best sound editing nominees are Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Dylan?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Buddy?
Ford versus Ferrari again.
Nick?
Star Wars.
Okay. And I went for 1917 as well, for that one. Feel like a safe bet. Best short live action. Nominees are Brotherhood, Nefta, Football Club, The Neighbor's Window, Saria, and A Sister. Dylan, have you watched many of these? I know that you went on a bit of a kick catching as many Oscar-related things.
Yeah, I've watched all of them but Saria. So I actually have an informed opinion on the short films this year.
Okay, so buddy, what's your pick?
Am I going first because Dylan has the informed pick to not leave me?
Yes, I feel like it's fair.
Yeah, I'm going to go from what I've read of the descriptions. Brotherhood. It was either between that or The Neighbor's Window, and that sounded like just a really weird porno from Rear Window or Disturbia. So yeah, I can't see them giving it that award.
Nick.
Just let me get my dartboard out here. A Sister.
A Sister. I also put down Brotherhood, so... Dylan, which one, with your informed opinion, do you think is going to win the Oscar?
I'm going with Neighbour's Window.
You scandalous... You scandalous
really into that.
cat,
not to spend too long on it, but I will say Neighbour's Window made me cry at the end of it. A Sister had me quite emotional at the end of it. Nefta Football Club made me laugh, and Brotherhood was shot very, very well. There's my quick review of the short films I watched.
Where were you able to watch all this?
They're all legally. They're either a combination of YouTube or Vimeo, officially uploaded.
Okay. Yeah. Next up, Best Short Animated. The nominees are Desira, daughter in the brackets, Hair Love, Kid Bull, Memorable, Sister. Buddy, what do you think is going to pick it up here?
I got to watch a few of these. I watched Kit Bull, Hair, Love, and I wasn't able to find Desira, but I saw kind of a trailer to see kind of what that was about. And I really liked Hair Love. That was quite
it's touching.
Quite touching and emotional. Bit of a tearjerker reveal at the end. So I liked Hair Love.
Okay. Nick.
Well, my dart's still in Sister, so that one.
That may be the
big
best
win
joke
for
of this whole podcast.
Big win for Sisters this Oscar season. I went for Hair Love as well. It's pretty much the only one I've seen online, so I feel like that's a good sign. Dylan, what do you think?
I'm going with Kit Bull. Although I really liked Hair Love as well, but I thought Kit Bull was better, more interestingly animated, so I thought that would push it over.
Cool. Next up, Best Production Design. The nominees are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Buddy, what do you think is going to win?
Oh, Once Upon a Time for this one.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm going to go that one too.
I went 1917. Dylan?
I struggled between Once Upon a Time and 1917, but I'm going with 1917 simply because they had to do such a wide scope of production design to allow for the camera to move through at all times, and that's why I've kind of pushed it through, I guess.
Yeah. Next up, we have Best Original Song. The nominees are I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Toy Story 4, I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man, I'm Standing With You from Breakthrough, Into the Unknown from Frozen 2, and Stand Up from Harriet. Nick, you're a music fan. What do you think is going to win Best Original Song?
I've only heard the Rocket Man album, so that one.
Yeah, I also went Rocket Man. Dylan?
Into the Unknown! That one. Great song.
Buddy?
Yeah, I also went Rocket Man as we've listened to that soundtrack at work a gazillion times.
It's good. It's a good soundtrack.
It is a good soundtrack, you're right.
Taron Egerton's great.
Yep.
Next up, we've got Best Original Score. The nominees are Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Nick, what do you think is going to win a Best Original Score?
Joker.
I also went Joker. Dylan?
I'm going with Star Wars. Throw John Williams one at his head for the last Star Wars movie.
Ooh. Buddy?
I also went Joker as well.
Okay. Next up, we have Best Makeup and Hairstyling. The nominees are Bombshell, Joker, Judy, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and 1917. Nick, what's your pick?
Joker.
I went with Bombshell. Dylan?
I'm going with Bombshell, but it was hard to pick between that and Joker, to be honest.
Buddy?
It was a toss-up between Judy and Joker, but I think Joker will get it.
Ooh. I don't know. This is an interesting one. I feel like prosthetics have been the big winners the last couple of years, so I feel like that's why I went Bombshell. So, next up, we have Best International Feature Film. Nominees are Corpus Christi, Honeyland, Les Miserables, Pain and Glory, and Parasite. I clearly went Parasite. Is anyone not going Parasite?
I'm going
No.
Pain and Glory.
Ooh, okay.
He's a Antonio Banderas fan.
Yeah. Next category is Best Film Editing. The nominees are Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Parasite. I went Ford v Ferrari. Dylan, what'd you go for?
Joker.
Buddy?
I went Ford versus Ferrari as well.
Yep. Nick?
Notice how 1917 is on here because they didn't need to edit it.
That's it. That's it. Cut. We're done.
That joke has been made on the internet, in the days since he won the award for film editing.
I'm going to go Ford Ferrari.
Okay. Next up, we have Best Documentary Short. The nominees are In the Absence, Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone If You're a Girl, Life Overtakes Me, St. Louis Superman, and Walk Run Cha Cha. I've put down Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone. Dylan?
I'm going with In the Absence because I've watched that one and I thought it was very good.
Buddy?
Yeah, I'm going with In the Absence as well, but it was between that and Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone.
Nick?
Walk, Run, Cha-Cha.
Walk Run Cha Cha.
Cha-cha!
It's got a good title. That's a good start. Next category is Best Documentary Feature. The nominees are American Factory, The Cave, The Edge of Democracy, For Summer, and Honeyland. Dylan, what do you think?
I'm going with American Factory solely because I did watch it and I thought it was very good, and it has like a whole theme about American fighting versus. Nick would love it. It's fucking about
Robots.
no
Communism.
work.
Capitalism. That's the opposite.
What you join at work? You fucking join
Unions.
Unions. Thank you. Fuck, I was dying on the words. Yeah, it's about like unions in America and how they're like super against them and like different cultures coming over and all these sorts of things. Produced by the Obamas, by the way. So extra points there.
Cool. Buddy, what's your pick?
Yeah, I think the Academy will be all over American Factory.
Nick?
I'm a fan of Nick Cave, so The Cave.
Great. I went with Honeyland. It's the first ever international film to also be up for documentary, and that could be a good sign. They'll pick up something. Next category is Best Costume Design. Nominees are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Dylan, what's your pick?
The Irishman, because they actually have to design a ridiculous amount of costumes for different period pieces across that movie.
Yep, they went down to the suit store and bought all of them.
None of them were bespoke.
Buddy, what's your pick?
Little Women for me.
Yeah. Nick?
Hollywood.
My pick is Little Women as well. I feel like a pretty period piece is a pretty safe bet for this category, unfortunately. Even though all of these are pretty much period pieces now, they say that. But, that era, I feel like they hand out a lot of awards. And for dresses and that kind of thing. Anyway, moving on. Best Cinematography. The nominees are The Irishman, Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Buddy, what is your pick?
1917.
Nick?
Roger Deakins.
Yep, same.
Same. Our Lord and Savior Roger Deakins.
Same.
Two-time winner.
Same.
Yep, unanimous. Alright. Best Animated Feature. The nominees are How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. Buddy, what's your pick?
How to Train Your Dragon sounds like a porno, so I can't support that at all. Toy Story 4 for me.
Nick? Do you feel
Klaus.
like any of these names are pornos?
I Lost My Body.
It's a weird fucking
Yeah, I don't
movie.
know. Missing Link? No, I don't know. Klaus. I'm picking Klaus.
Picking Klaus. Solid choice. I'm also going with Toy Story 4, though. Dylan?
I'm going with Klaus.
Oof. Okay. Next is Best Supporting Actress. The nominees are Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell, Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh for Little Women, and Margot Robbie for Bombshell. Buddy, who's your pick?
I would love for Florence Pugh to win this, but I kind of have to take out her whole year and just think of the one picture, so I'm probably going to go Laura Dern.
Nick?
Kathy Bates.
Solid choice. I also would love Florence Pugh to win this. I think even just on Little Women, I think she would win. But Laura Dern has won pretty much everything, so I think it's.
See, I don't think she was
has
the
to win.
strongest part of that movie.
No, she's not.
supporting
But
actress.
the award isn't for the strongest part of the movie.
No, but like I don't think she was particularly great in that role.
It's okay to be wrong.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll
Dylan.
know. You'll all know.
I'm picking Laura Dern also with the same sentiment about Florence Pugh.
Best Actress. The nominees are Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger for Judy. Nick, who do you think is going to win?
The only one I've seen is Marriage Story, so ScarJo.
Okay, I'm going with Renee Zellweger again. I feel like these 4 acting categories are pretty much set in stone almost. So yeah, Renee Zellweger, even though I haven't seen Judy, I feel is going to win. Dylan?
Taking my big step on this one, and I'm going to go with Sarah's Ronan.
Saoirse Ronan, yes.
Yep. No, I'll
Yep,
never say
I thought it was Cerise Ronan.
Never say it
Saoirse
correctly.
Ronan.
It's Saoirse.
Saoirse Ronan.
Great, she's
I'd
never
love
going to
for her
guest on a show ever.
I would love for her to win, but I think it's going to be Renee Zellweger. And that's going to be some speech.
Yeah.
They better give that award first.
Best Supporting Actor. The nominees are Tom Hanks for Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins for The Two Popes, Al Pacino for The Irishman, Joe Pesci for The Irishman, and Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Nick, who have you got?
Anthony Hopkins.
Ooh. Brad Pitt. I think he's going to pick it up. Dylan.
Brad Pitt.
And Buddy.
Yeah, Brad Pitt.
Yep. So best actor in a movie nominees are Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. Nick, who do you think?
Joaquin.
Also going for Joaquin. Dylan?
Joaquin.
And Buddy.
Yeah, same. As much as I would love for it to be Adam Driver.
Yeah, I think he's a clear number 2, but there's just no stopping the Joker train in this regard. Best Original Screenplay. The nominees are Knives Out, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Nick, who do you think?
Marriage Story.
I've gone with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Dylan?
Parasite.
Buddy?
Man. How cool would it be if it was Knives Out? But
would be so cool.
Once Upon a Time as well.
Yeah. I think Knives Out is the best script, but whatever. Best Adapted Screenplay. The nominees are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, and The Two Popes. I've gone with Little Women. I think the Academy will try and right themselves in this category after they've seen the backlash to the nominations, but we'll see. Dylan, who do you think?
Little Women. But also, what is Joker adapted from? Like,
Comics.
is it just because it's based on a comic? They say it's adapted
I guess so.
from something?
It's a adapted character, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's bullshit. Yeah, but Little Women.
No.
You would prefer it to be in a best original story?
You see, the Joker is actually a comic book character, Dylan, and they adapted him.
But just because it's based on
It's
a
not
comic
bullshit
book
at all.
character-
It's true.
I didn't know.
He's not an original character.
Yeah, but it's not based on an actual direct comic book. So does that count? That's my
Yes, because there's an adaptation.
of what though?
It's
It's,
adapted
just
from
using
something.
a character.
Exactly, they adapted the character.
I don't know if you know this, but the Two Popes, they didn't just come up with the Two Popes. It's adapted from the actual Two Popes. There's no
No,
book
that
about
is
the
not-
Two Popes.
Fuck this category. Fuck these awards and fuck you and your stupid podcast.
Buddy, what do you think?
Little Women.
All right. Nick.
Two Popes.
Two Popes. Oh. Best Director. The nominees are Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, Todd Phillips for Joker, Sam Mendes for 1917, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. I think this is where Parasite wins for Bong Joon-ho, because it just turns out that only one American has won the Best Director in the last 5-10 years, 5-6 years, something like that. Dylan, who have you got?
Old Sammy Mendes. Sammy Mendes.
Old Sammy Mendes.
Old Sammy.
Buddy, who have you got?
Yeah, Bong Joon-ho. I would be surprised if Quentin Tarantino picks it up.
Yeah. Nick.
Sam Mendes.
Sam Mendes. All right. And finally, Best Picture. The nominees again are Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasites. I'm going to go with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, even though I desperately want Parasite to win. Dylan.
1917.
Buddy.
1917, I think, will win it.
Okay. And Nick.
1917.
All right. Those are our Academy Award predictions. Tune in next episode. We'll reveal who got the most right. Probably going to be me, or maybe Buddy.
All right,
It's definitely
calm the
one of those
fuck
two.
down. All right.
Definitely one of those two.
The check is in the mail, Ash.
Yeah.
It's dated the
All right.
30th of February.
All right. I'll be sure to wait to check it in. Right. Well, that's it. Let's move into what do we end up watching. Buddy, what did we end up watching?
Do you want to die, Sydney?
Wow, that was pretty good.
We watched Scream.
Hello?
Hello.
Who is this?
Tell me your name, I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
What's that noise?
Popcorn.
You making popcorn?
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Someone is playing a deadly game.
It all began with a scream over 911.
Someone who's seen one too many scary movies. Now he's taken his love of fear
Hello?
Hello, Sydney.
one step too far.
Do you like scary movies?
What's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a scary movie. Number one, you can never have sex. Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back. Get another beer, you want one? Yeah, sure. I'll be right back.
He didn't make the rules.
The police are always on track. If they watch prom night, they save time.
He just kills by them. Don't answer the phone. Don't open the door. Don't try to hide.
From 1996, the quintessential horror slasher film from Wes Craven. one of my favorite movies of all time. Inside my top 5, it floats between 3 and 5, depending on mood in most cases. So, yeah, I'm excited to kind of hear what you think, especially for yourself, Ash, who you don't consume a lot of horror genre stuff, and I'm especially excited to hear what you think as well, Nick, based on your Trakt ratings. I hear.
All right. Yeah.
A wry smile for all the audio listeners at home.
All right, yeah. Starring Nev Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, Matthew Lillard, Rose McGowan, Skeet Ulrich, and Drew Barrymore. A year after the murder of her mother, a teenage girl is terrorized by a new killer who targets the girl and her friends by using horror films as part of a deadly game. I, of course, known fact, I'm not a big fan of horror movies. I had a good time. I enjoyed it. My only issue, and it's completely self-inflicted, and there's nothing that the film could have done
Is
to
it to
avoid
do with
this.
Riverdale?
I've watched Scary Movie.
Oh.
Yeah,
So I've
that's
seen-
exact same thing.
I'm like trying to piece together if this is exactly the same or it's not, but it's
not.
very close. But yeah, if I hadn't seen that, I feel like I would have been more surprised by certain elements. Even it's been like 10, 12 years since I've seen a Scary Movie, so like certain things still surprise me, like the ending. I was like, oh yeah, that's how it ends.
I'm impressed that you can remember any Scary Movie at all.
I mean, Anna Faris, she's in it. There's jokes.
Ashley.
Well, the opening is completely the same. They completely ripped it off. So that, obviously seeing the original version, it's much better than it was in Scary Movie. A lot less, a hell of a lot more scary. And reading up, obviously, that's what he started off with, pretty much as the basis of the script, and built it from there, I believe. So, yeah, I had a good time. It's a good horror movie. It wasn't too scary. There are like a couple of jump scares at certain points that got me, but yeah, I think it's good. Obviously, the tone I think probably is the thing that works for me the most. I feel like it's just a tone that I'm attuned to and can handle. But Nick, what do you think of Scream?
I liked aspects of it. I really, really liked how, I guess, meta it was. But the thing that really drew me out of it was, I guess it's no fault of the movie, like it is what it was. If I'd seen a contemporary, I guess my opinion of it would be different, but watching it for the first time in 2019 is like, the acting was just not there for me. It was really bad. And a lot of the dialogue, especially with Courtney Cox's character and David Arquette, just didn't work for me at all. I mean, I guess it's a trapping of the genre in a way, but I guess having been experienced to so many, I guess horror movies with more depth, I guess, or better acting or better premises behind it, it's not for me in this day and age anyway. Like, if I had watched, say, Nightmare on Elm Street, which was one of my favourite horror movies, I would feel differently, but I guess having the history of it, I guess, puts it over the line for me, whereas I guess it's the same for you, buddy, where I guess you had seen it contemporaneously.
Yeah, Pop actually, this one came out in 97 for us, 96 in the cinemas. It was actually a Christmas release in America, bizarrely. And Pop would always hire video store, and it's one of those ones where I didn't get to go, but he brought back Scream. And because we used to watch horror movies together all the time, and that's kind of how I grew up with a love of it. So I watched it in 97 when it came to DVD, and it terrified the life out of me. You don't get Freddy, Jason, or Michael Myers. There was no supernatural element. The thing that always jump scared me in movies like that was always the kind of sense that you could fall back, and this is something that Pop would tell me, and the reason I was allowed to watch, I guess, movies that were kind of outside my age range or appropriateness was that this is fake. This can't happen. You are safe. Like, all that kind of stuff. Where you'll watch a movie like Scream, and It could happen because it's basically a supernatural entity. Like, you know, some character, although Ghostface has kind of been elevated to be this kind of horror icon that character is now. It was totally in the realms of believability, and especially, you know, watching it now, a lot of these things you could look back and like, well, mobile phones, internet, blah, blah, blah. How slow is her internet as she typing to the police? And all these things that possibly, you know, break it if you really looked into it. But at the time, it was horrifying. And it's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask of you. Yeah. It's a bit weird because you've seen Scary Movie before Scream. But as I've watched this many times over the years, me reciting lines of it and it becoming kind of this more so a comedy than a horror because of its meta aspect and its kind of snapshot on. Did you watch this and go, oh, this is a horror movie? Or did you watch this and go, oh, this is a comedy or a comedy horror? Or did you get any kind of elements with that for both of you? Or
I did find parts of it funny, but I don't know if it was intended to be that way.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like it's certain parts, and particularly anything including Matthew Lillard or his horror.
Speaking of, he plays exactly the same kind of character in 13 Ghosts. Exact same kind of fucking acting is just over the top. But yeah, I guess it was kind of a subversion of the teenage slasher as well, I guess, in a way. Especially like how you said, it is, I guess, one of the bigger ones that grounds it in reality in a way as opposed to the supernatural element. I guess at the time I can see it not being as funny as it would appear today, but yeah, like I definitely laughed at a few points of it, but I don't know if that was me just seeing it with 2020 sensibilities and having exposure to different things.
Like when he gets hit with a bottle and he falls over and he's falling over shit.
That's it. Yeah. It's like, especially when he was getting hit and he was like being shot with a shotgun or something like that. And it was definitely a lot of slapstick to it.
It's like, oh shit,
or when she gets killed by a roller door.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is believable because he's he's not just walking around invincible. He's falling over shit. He's clumsy. But now you watch it, it's like, oh, that's funny though.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Dylan, what do you think of Scream?
I've watched all of the Scream movies many times. I think the first Scream was the first DVD I ever brought myself with my own like pocket money, and all that I would credit it as getting me into horror movies more heavily because I brought it when I was in grade 7, so I would have been like 12. I guess roughly. Yeah,
too young. Yeah,
they all three were out when I watched them, and it was up at like this bargain bin shop we had in Tasmania at one stage called Chicken Feed, and I brought my first copy because I had it in like a bin there for $2, and I was like, oh, this looks cool, I'll buy this. I had $2 so I could afford to buy a DVD. You know, DVDs are usually like $10, $20 or whatever. I can't afford that shit, but $2, I had that because I could just afford not to eat for lunch. Buy this DVD that I probably wasn't allowed to have instead. And then they had 2 and 3 in the same bin. So I loved the first one. I watched it, and then I watched 2 and 3 after, and I loved both those. So, I love all of the Scream movies. But I also feel like because I was young, I still got the full effect of this movie because like a big thing for this movie was also the fact that like they cast Drew Barrymore in the role, and like they promote it with her as like one of the stars and blah, 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 blah. And of course they kill her off in the first 10 minutes of the movie. But I didn't know any of this. And I knew who Drew Barrymore was even at that age because I'm like, Charlie's Angels, right? you know, like this is a thing. So I went into the movie, even though it'd been out for like 5 years or whatever. No, fucking more than 5 years at this point by the time I was watching it on DVD. But I still went in and I was like, oh, Drew Barrymore, cool. And I'm sitting there watching it for the first time. I remember when she died and I was like, what the fuck? Like they killed Drew Barrymore? What's going on in this movie? So I think this movie's great. Still holds up for me, but I'm willing to admit, obviously, a lot of that, Buddy's got like his thing where he's watched it, and even though I didn't watch it like at cinemas, I watched it on DVD, but I still watched it at such a young age that I feel like I have a attachment to the Scream franchise. But I do have a hot take for the Scream aficionados out there, including
let's shut
Buddy.
this down. Go on.
My hot take is that my rankings of the Scream movies is actually Scream 4, 1, 2, 3. And the reason I enjoy 4 the most, even though a lot of people don't think it's very good,
save the cheerleader,
is because is because when Scream 1 originally came out, as much as I enjoyed watching it at 12, a lot of like the meta conversation on horror movies at the time went over my head, and I just enjoyed it as a slasher flick at the time, and I enjoyed the villain, and I enjoyed the scares, and I enjoyed the like mix of humor, and I loved the ending at the time. I remember being like, "There's two of them. That's fucking crazy," you know, like, oh, spoilers. But whatever. But I think the reason I hold 4 so high is that I was super amped when they announced I was doing Scream 4. I was like, fuck yes, they're making another one. I love this franchise. I'm finally going to get a chance to watch one in the cinema. And when I watched 4, without spoiling it, they, of course, upped the way they talked about horror movies for me then. Like, I'm like, that I could now get it and understand it. And a lot of the meta discussion in 4 made a lot more sense to me when I was watching it at cinema at the time. And I think because I got to experience that in the cinema and be like, wow, this is so smart. I love the way, like, of course this is what happened. Like, this is like a really smart way to update the Scream franchise. Like, I was like in love with that movie. So yeah, my hot take is that I actually love 4. Not to say one's bad, of course, but I really enjoy watching 4, and then 1, of course. But overall, one of the greatest horror franchises of all time. And Wes Craven, horror master, R.I.P. of course.
Yeah, I've got 1, 4, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
As the rank.
I've got 1.
You gotta go watch number 2 now. Number 2 goes even more meta.
I actually think I will stick with it because I do enjoy the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, even though he only directed 2 of them. But it was interesting to see. You don't really see that with the horror franchises where the director stays with the whole series.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Kevin Williamson is, right. So he doesn't do 3, and 3 gets shit on and dunked on a lot, and I think it loses a lot of that kind of that meta kind of introspective look on the horror tropes and stuff. And I think that's, you know, kind of when it bounced back to 4 and went back to that. That's one of its strengths. It was kind of missing from 3. So.
For people that don't know, in case, like, to pitch it to make sure you go watch 2. 2's like, of course, tackling a lot of the horror tropes that come with horror sequels, but it's like it's just the way it fits it all in within the world just makes perfect sense. It's like, of course, there's a movie being made about the events that happened in the first movie, and then there's a copycat killer that starts up based on that, and then you're watching that. Oh, it's so meta and it's great. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, knowing my luck, I'd probably get Tori Spelling number 2. Tori Spelling.
What the fuck, Jane Silent Bob are in Scream 2?
Yeah, and then there's a cross connection to Jane Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yes. Yeah.
They're running through the Miramax lot, and they run across into the Scream set, and Wes Craven has a cameo as well.
What about you, Ash? Would you be, even though it's not outside your horror, would you watch the other Scream 2 and see how you go from there? Or
maybe, just to fill in my film knowledge, just to keep these guys.
In other words, Ashley's not going to watch it.
Probably not anytime soon.
That's what Buddy's choosing for next episode.
I'll be back in 3 episodes time, and we'll be talking about Scream 2.
I would love to get to 4 still, because like a lot of my feelings I have about 4, I still think are super. Like, they still make sense now, and that movie came out like nearly 10 years ago. I think like 2011 or something like that. I think it was Scream 4. And
it's on our potential.
Yeah, I really still think like the way that movie talks about the meta horror conversation is still relevant 10 years later. Like, and I can't say why without spoilers, I feel, but it's like still would make a lot of sense and interesting discussion. So yeah, you should watch it all, then we can talk about Scream 4.
Yeah.
Another thing I just want to bring up, because I'm just going through the Wikipedia page, the soundtrack for the film.
Soundtrack is dope. There's a vinyl that we sell at work that is a compilation of Scream 1 and 2 soundtrack, and it is just full of bangers. So sorry to like cut you off there with excitement.
No, you're fine.
But it's got a sick as, cover as well. So
yes, check out the Scream soundtrack on Spotify or in physical stores, preferably.
It's so funny, growing up and watching Scream and then going to the movies to watch Scary Movie, a parody of a movie that I loved so much. And yeah, that's the interesting dynamic that I guess I had growing up, and as opposed to you've seen Scary Movie and now you're watching Scream.
I think that's an important part, because even at my age, I didn't watch Scary Movie until after I watched the Scream movies. So I got to watch them with their full parody intentions. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this. What do you want to watch? Buddy, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me on the internet at BuddyWatson12 on Twitter. I'm usually on Dash Gamer Podcast. I'm on a bit of a break now because I'm exhausted and fatigued from video games. But follow me on Twitter, and I'm popping up on podcasts here, there, and everywhere.
Cool. Nick, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEYHOBLEY. It's a thing.
Cool. Dylan, where can people find you?
Find me on Trakt and Twitter at Vivaladil, VIVALADIL.
Cool. And you can find me at those places at Ashley Hobley. That's ASHLEYHOBLEY. You can follow the Explosion Network, which is part of at Explosion Pod. You can check out all our video content at youtube.com/Explosion Network, or just go to YouTube, explosionnetwork.com, where you can find all our reviews, all other awesome podcasts, news, articles, everything. It's right there. If you want to talk to us on Discord, go to explosionnetwork.com/Discord. If you want to send us an email, send us an email at mail@explosionnetwork.com. Find out what Nick's proper Twitter handle is right there. If you want to help us out, leave us a review, either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or tweet something out. Tell people that you want Buddy more on this show, and maybe you'll convince me. Or tell friends about the show. That's always nice. Or if you want to help us out, go to kofi.com/explosion. You can leave us a donation. That always helps us out monetarily. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Sure said we need the Kofi money to pay for Buddy's appearance fee.